It's time now for the award-winning #1 local talk show in Northeast Pennsylvania, The Sam Lesante Show. Now here's your host, Sam Lesante.
So my friends, we're continuing on the journey for election November 5th. Interesting thing, we look at the elected officials who are running. What does a Superior Court judge do? And so you wonder, well, who cares about a Superior Court judge or a Supreme Court judge? You care about them when something happens that affects your lives. Then you're hoping and praying that you have a person there who is impartial, who's going to be fair and just, because it could be your life, your livelihood on the line. And so today we have Christylee Peck. She is a judge in the Cumberland County Court of Common Pleas, and she's running for Superior Court judge. And so I'd like to find out a little bit more about, Christylee. And Christy, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So our viewers are looking at you and saying, there's no way she's a judge. She got to be in college, okay? But you have a unique experience. Let's go back a little bit. When did you decide to become a lawyer?
I've always had a mind of analysis, I would say, but when I was younger, my mom tells a story that I was walking. My mom worked in Harrisburg for the Department of Education, and we were walking by the Capitol. She would often take me out to lunch if I went down there to see her, what she did for the day. And we went over past Strawberry Square, and we went over to the Capitol building, and we were walking by there, and apparently she just told me this story recently, and she said, what's happening in there? And she explained to me exactly what was happening, and I asked her, well, how do they make those decisions? And so obviously I had just an interest in the law and how law was made. And so you fast forward, and she told me that story recently, I didn't even remember it. So you fast forward, when I was about 19, my mom always told me that public service was important and that politics is an area where if you get into it, you can do some good in the world. And so she told me to get involved in politics. I started working for a local state representative. I was a House messenger delivering different paperwork to the all around the Capitol building, and I just got interested. I listened to their debates about things, and I got interested in the law that way.
And now, so you decided to go to, what law school did you go to?
I went to Dickinson Law School in Carlisle, where I sit as a judge now.
Yeah, great college, great college. My good friend was a trustee there, and it's a fabulous college. All right, so now, you become a lawyer, then you want to run for judge. So why did you want to run for judge?
Because I was a prosecutor, and I was handling child abuse cases, and I really had a passion for handling those types of cases and trying to help children and affect justice. And I realized that what I could do is, what if I were the decision maker in deciding what that justice looked like? And also that I could affect all of the areas of law that affect a child. So you know that, of course, cases happen with children that affect them in a criminal context, but custody cases, children youth proceedings, maybe where a child's neglected. So there's lots of areas of law, and I knew as a judge I would be able to handle all of the areas of law.
How was it like running for a judge, the Court of Common Pleas? What was your experience like? Yeah,
so you knock on doors, and I would just basically knock on doors every single night and all weekend long, and sometimes there was good reception. Sometimes you would catch, mothers in the middle of putting their kids to, the kids were in bath time, and it was bad timing, Lots of dogs, coming up and giving you kisses and that type. But you just basically knock on a lot of doors, go to as many events, get into pockets of different areas and try to talk to as many people in the community. And it's actually a really good education for being a judge, because then you know your community much better than when you hadn't done all those things.
So when you're running for a judge, I'm a firm believer in what you're doing today. You're explaining who you are, what qualifications you have. And so you have a beautiful flyer here. Now the flyer only means something to me after I listen to what you do, and then, that's right, she was this, she was this, she was this.
Right.
And so sometimes, you see all these signs out, and that's good to have signs, but you don't vote for signs. You vote for the people, and then, so when you're knocking on these doors and you're talking to someone, especially when you're running for judge, why is it important? Well, here, as I said in my opening, it's important when it affects you, okay? When it affects you, then you hope and pray that you have someone who's qualified and who could give you a fair trial. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, and to bring it home to your viewers, another way, I was saying the other day, in the medical field, we wouldn't have a surgeon taking care of our lives that wasn't qualified and wasn't experienced. I'm not sure why people don't pay much attention to the courts, because it's the same. If you think about it, I'm holding people's lives in my hands every day. Their liberties, whether or not they go to jail, whether or not they get to see their children more often or not. So we need to make sure that we're electing qualified people for sure.
Christylee, I've said this so many times. The mess we have today, okay, is in politics. I mean, it's because they vote for people. Now, you say, well, she's pretty, she's nice, etc. And that's all well and good. But does she have the substance?
Right.
Does she have the opportunity? Does she know what she's doing? Okay, so we go beyond that. And so I don't vote for Sam Lesante because he has 25 and he tells a lot of jokes and he's a lot. Yeah, well, yeah, you have. But what is the substance? And that's what you hit the nail right on the head. Go beyond the looks, go beyond the person, go beyond behind. So what substance you bring?
Yep. So I went to law school. First, I went to Penn State and Dickinson School of Law. I've lived in Central Pennsylvania all of my life. I'm the only Central Pennsylvania candidate in this race. There's 2 seats open on the Superior Court this year, for your viewers' knowledge. And after law school, I went and did a little civil business practice. I was doing trial litigation in civil matters, construction, banking. So I have some experience in civil practice. Then I went to the Lancaster County District Attorney's Office and practiced, obviously, as a criminal prosecutor. Then I went to the Cumberland County District Attorney's Office, where I was working for Dave Freed, who's now happens to be our U.S. Middle District Attorney. And I was handling all the child abuse cases. So I was the chief child abuse prosecutor, and I was doing homicides, all major felonies. And then in 2011, I ran for the bench. And when I ran for the bench, there were 2 seats open, just like now for the Superior Court. There were 9 candidates in the race. I worked my tail off, and I won on both the Republican and the Democrat tickets when I did that. I got on the bench, and since 2012, I handle every single area of law that the Superior Court looks at. So a lot of people don't know, as you were pointing out, exactly what the Superior Court does, but they handle every appeal from the Court of Common Pleas that affects you on a daily basis and affects your family on a daily basis. So they handle civil matters, criminal matters, children and youth proceedings, custody, orphans court, maybe like if an elderly person. Unfortunately, I've had a fair amount of cases like that. I just had one the other day where I had an elderly person that wasn't being taken care of by their family. Their family had basically left them behind. I see that all too often, unfortunately. The woman had Alzheimer's, and the state stepped in to try to see what they could do to try to help. And fortunately, there was going to be a neighbor who was just an angel that was willing to step up to the plate and take care of that person. But I have to have a hearing to hear whether or not I should appoint somebody else to take care of that poor woman. I heard some testimony in court, and it just broke my heart that she would sit on the edge of her bed every single day, and she thought that she was getting a ride, and so she was all dressed up and ready to go, and then nobody was ever coming for her. And I think about those decisions when I'm sitting there in court, and I just want to make sure that someone is taking good care of her, and somebody is telling her we're going somewhere, making, like, let's just go for a walk or something, to make sure that she's being taken care of. So that's what is happening in court every day. Nobody's paying attention, but I'm doing that every single day in court. And the Superior Court, they make sure I'm doing my job correctly, so it's important.
Christy, how do you, and this is difficult, do you come from a big family?
I do.
Okay, how many brothers?
Yeah, so my dad was one of 7, and then my mom is one of 3, and so obviously there's lots of nieces and nephews and cousins.
Okay.
And yeah.
So my grandmother had 13 kids. So how do you, as a judge, take your emotions, check them at the door, sit on a bench? I mean, because you are human and you have feelings.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Simple as it's a light switch. When I was a prosecutor, I was an advocate. I was an advocate for one side or another. But when you become a judge, you immediately take that hat off, and it doesn't matter to me what walk of life you're coming from. I am to be fair and impartial and listen to everyone, and so that's what I do. But regarding the emotions, I mean, they're still there sometimes. I just reckon.
You're human.
Yeah, and when I listen to, for example, unfortunately, a woman maybe that's a victim of domestic violence, and I hear what has happened to her, my heart goes out to her, but I also know I haven't heard from the defendant yet. And so I want to hear what they both have to say, because everybody, there's always different information to obtain.
And that's where I think the experience and the qualifications come into being. Sometimes you have biased judges, okay, which is terrible, okay? It's bias if they're on your side, it's great, but it's not good,
Right.
okay? You need a judge that is fair, and we always say that. Now, you've been on the bench 9 years.
Yep.
You ran 9 years ago against how many candidates?
There were 9 candidates
9.
when we started.
So therefore, the voters and people who met you and know you had to believe in what you did, okay? You have a beautiful record for the last 9 years, okay? And now you want to go and challenge and have another challenge in your life to be a Superior Court justice, okay? I have to think that you have a lot of fire in your stomach and that you enjoy what you're doing, correct?
I do. I love being a judge. I'm a truth seeker every day.
All right,
I
yeah.
get to help people, and I love talking to people. I love being on the campaign trail and being out there talking to people. But the drive that you said, and I appreciate you asking about that, the drive is I want to help people in court.
Okay.
I mean, that's the bottom line.
All right, let me throw something at you.
Sure.
Okay, I don't mean physical, but let me throw. All right, so now here's Christylee Peck, Judge Christylee Peck, and you went to school with Sam Lesante, Attorney Sam Lesante, and we're the best of friends, and we go out and we with my wife and your boyfriend or whatever, and we're the best of friends. We laugh together. I get a case, and I have to go in front of Christylee Peck. Now here I am in court. And there's my good friend. Last night we had a great time, okay? Aren't you a little bit of prejudice?
Yeah, I am careful about that on purpose. So when I took the bench, I was very good friends, for example, with several of the prosecutors in my office.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I distanced myself. They knew that I still was friends, but you want to make sure there's never an appearance of impropriety. So I don't do those types of things is the bottom line.
So therefore you would recluse yourself if I was a good personal friend of yours?
First, if
Everyone knows that we're always together. We go out with our wives, our husbands, and with our boyfriends, etc. And we're good friends. And I've been donating for your cause and the whole bit. Okay.
Well, there's specific rules about if somebody contributes to your campaign, whether you should recuse. But if you set that aside, if you're my friend, first of all, I really don't have too many because I don't want to create that appearance. I mean, a lot of my friends.
You're a good lawyer.
Yeah, a lot of my friends are outside of the legal context of the people coming in before me. But to answer the question directly. Yeah. Of course, and what you need to do is make sure to disclose to the people that are in front of me. And if I think that there's any reason that I would be biased towards you, I absolutely would recuse myself. Yeah. And if, for example, you're somebody I maybe just see once every 5 months or something when I happen to be out and I'm talking to them, I would still maybe disclose to people like, this is somebody that I run into frequently.
Listen, I think every judge and every lawyer, and I know a lot of lawyers, okay, and lawyers get a bad rap. I live across the street from a lawyer. He's a fabulous guy. He's been in practicing 50 years. And I mean, what he knows about the law, people, they can't even come close to it. But the point is that you meet people, you're meeting lawyers all over the place because you're running for judge. Yeah. And the lawyers are saying to me, Sam, we want a fair judge. We want a judge who is fair. No matter if I'm a good friend or I know them or I supported them, I have lawyers that tell me they contribute to judges because they want that person, not because of their own person, but they want to know that they have a fair judge. When you were a lawyer, did you do that?
So I supported candidates from the time I was young, but when I was a prosecutor, I don't remember contributing to other candidates, maybe a small amount, but certainly everybody wants a fair judge. And so, for example, I'm blessed to have the statewide Fraternal Order of Police endorsement. And I appreciate their respect, but that doesn't mean that I don't hold their feet to the fire, because good police officers also know that they want to make sure that they're following the law and that they're doing their jobs correctly also, the same way that I want to make sure I'm doing my job correctly. So it's exactly what you just said. Our justice system would be nowhere if we don't make sure that there aren't judges there that have agendas or that don't have biases towards people.
When you have to make a decision, and it's a tough decision, and you're going to have a recess and you have to go and think about this. How do you weigh the pros and cons in your mind as to the decision? Do you have other people doing research for you and saying, Judge Peck, we had this, we had that, this, and then you take that and then you make a value decision?
So I get prepared before I go into court about what is the background of the law, what are the documents that have been filed, so I understand generally what's happening. And then I go into court, keep an open mind, and listen to what everybody has to say. Then a lot of times I'll make the decision right then and there if I have everything I need. If I don't and I need some more research, then I'll go back. I do have a law clerk that works for me, and sometimes she'll pull some information and, on a particular area of law, then I'll take a look at that, and then I'll make the decision after that.
From the first year you were a judge until now, 9 years later, what can you tell me? What is, I hope you've matured, because I did a little research on you before you came on the show. It's all positive. It's great. I'm going to vote for you, okay? Because I see the the experience, and I've never met you until today. I think you have a great, you have a wonderful personality, but that means nothing. I want to look about your qualifications, okay? Have you seen, things different in law from?
Yeah, first, I'm a way better judge than when I started, and it's because I've seen enough cases that I know the perspective that I'm making the decision in and the context. I mean, you're just different from day 1 till day 9. I see a lot of the same issues coming back into court, different facts, but same types of areas of law, and so I'm more well prepared and more experienced. What the viewers might like to know is what it's like to actually be a judge, and it's a heartbreaking experience. I handle a lot of the children youth proceedings where children are neglected, and I volunteered to do that when I took the bench. And there's days sometimes whenever things are happening and I hear, for example, a 10-year-old that tells me some things that happen that no 10-year-old should know. But then kids are really resilient. And so sometimes I have to look out the window and just, essentially look to a higher power to tell me, I know what the decision should be, but I ask for the strength to make that decision because they're difficult decisions to make. Not that I can't, of course, but the other thing that I've really learned is there's really not a lot of really evil people in the world. Whenever you first start as a prosecutor or as a judge, sometimes you see a lot of bad things happening, and that starts to cloud and you think there's a lot of bad in the world. But then what you see is there's a lot of people, like I told you, that lady that's going to step up and take care of her neighbor, who she has no duty to take care of her. So there's really not a lot of evil people. There's a lot of people that make mistakes. There's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are addicted to drugs or alcohol. And there's people that just have lost a little bit of their way or made bad decisions, and they need to be held accountable for those. But there's mostly, I think, good underlying people.
Folks, I'm talking to Christylee Peck. She's running for Superior Court, has a fabulous record. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit more what she expects to do, a little bit about her, and why she wants your vote. We'll be back right after this. With us, folks, you're watching the Sam Lesante Show. Thank you for the emails, pros and cons. That's okay. It's sam@ssptv.com. Remember our website, ssptv.com. All of the 31 local shows we produce are on there, including the show I'm doing right now with Judge Christylee Peck. She's running for Superior Court, and folks, I've told you many times, vote for qualifications. Don't vote because she's a nice girl or she's pretty or she has 20 kids. Doesn't make a bit of difference. Vote for qualifications. Staying on that line, Judge Peck, I'm seeing here, before I would endorse you, okay, and I said on the other break that I'm going to vote for you because I did my homework on you. Before I even met you, I did my homework on you. So how did you acquire these endorsements?
Some of them are through relationships I had through my professional career, and what I did was build on that. So it takes a fair amount of work. For example, to get the statewide Fraternal Order of Police, I certainly knew a lot of police officers in my area from my time being on the bench and being a prosecutor. But I went around to different parts of the state, in Pittsburgh, in Philadelphia, statewide, and went to meetings to make sure that I could obtain their support. So the same with, I have the State Troopers Association endorsement across the state, and I have the firefighters endorsement in Pittsburgh, Allentown, Philadelphia, and statewide. Those are all separate meetings where you're basically meeting them, doing what we're doing here right now, discussing my qualifications, telling them that my job is to be a judge. It doesn't matter which party you're coming from, but more importantly, that I make sure to look at the truth of the matter and apply the law fairly.
When you're running for office, and you said something about politics before when you were with your mother, and a good friend of mine told me many years when I was a chairman of the Board of Trustees, she was on the board with me, she was a county commissioner. She said, Sammy, good politicians make good government. The word was good. Mm-hmm. We need politicians. Unfortunately, we have some bad politicians that want their own agendas. Right. How do you separate yourself from that? Because you're running for a very serious position, Superior Court judge, like our good friend Coriel Stevens, who incidentally says hello. He has a TV show here called Judge.
I heard that. Yes.
Judge Stevens.
Yes, I want to watch it.
He does fabulous with it. Okay, and they're all true cases. But how do you separate? Now, I'm the head of the X party, and come into my office. Okay, Christy, now you understand, before I give you my endorsement, you have to do this and this and this, and blah, 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 blah.
Look, judges can't say what way they will rule on any issue that comes before them for good reason. So if somebody wants to ask me what my stance is, for example, on how I feel about sentencing DUI convictions, I'm not going to talk about that because I look at each case individually and I'm going to be fair. Politics don't come into play. As soon as you become a judge, you take it off. I'm not involved in any politics whatsoever. But the bottom line is trying to talk to people and tell them, when you get to talk, it's too bad I can't talk to every single voter, because what you really want to show them is my heart's in it. I'm not doing this for my career. I'm already a judge. I love being a judge. Let me tell you that moving up to the Superior Court, it's not really much of a pay increase. It's a lot more work in terms of paperwork and opinions. They are a very, very busy court, and it's a different type of work than what I'm doing now, so I'm prepared, but it's not something that I'm doing for my career. I'm doing it because I want to help people statewide. That's the bottom line. I'm running because I want to help.
You said when you ran for judge, you knocked on doors. Okay, what were some of the questions that, hi, I'm Christylee Peck. I'm running for a common pleas court. I'd appreciate your vote. I mean, what were some of the things they'd tell you?
Where are you from? Do you have a family? They would ask me, a lot of times they would try to ask me how I feel about certain issues, and that's when I tell them, well, I can't talk about the specific issues that would come before me. You would be amazed at how many issues come before the Court of Common Pleas on all of the hot topic issues that people talk about. But they wanted to know my experience, and then sometimes they would want to know if I know so-and-so or where I went to high school. I mean, they're trying to get a sense of what type of person you are.
Yeah. It's wonderful to vote for a friend or a neighbor if you have qualifications.
Yes.
And I use that term that you said. So you need a surgery, and so go and see Dr. Smith. He's a fun guy. He tells the best jokes and he'll pat you on the back and say, "What is it?" Well, he's gonna operate on me. Does he have any experience? Does he have anything? So we'll look carefully at when we get a doctor, etc. But the politicians come in, and just because they're popular, et cetera, they tell you things, and I think that's where people are getting upset.
Yeah. And people don't pay attention to the courts except, as you said, until they come into court.
Yes.
And the first question they want to know is, who's the judge? Because they want to know if they're fair. But the judges are where the rubber meets the road. You can have a good legislature and a good executive branch, but if we don't have good judges, we're the ones that are applying the law and protecting rights.
And I like your card here, folks. And remember, go to her website, electjudgepeck.com. She is recognized as a hard worker, articulate, and accomplished. A proven fair and impartial judge. The most qualified choice. A record of protecting us and sharing Pennsylvania's values. These are heavy things. I mean, to get these, you had to really work hard and you had to earn these things, okay?
I did. Yeah. I'm blessed.
Yeah. Well, when you're looking at the state of Pennsylvania, and we're hoping that everyone's fair and honest, all you ask for in life is just a fair, honest trial. I could imagine when you were telling me stories, you're a human being. You have feelings. You have emotions. You're not a robot. I just can imagine, Christylee, how many times you've gone home and you just sat down and just either cried or just, because you're human. I mean, because you're dealing with people's lives.
Yes, I do. I take it home with me sometimes, and that's unfortunate, but it's because I really care and I'm thinking about it. I mean, I've had cases in court in those children and youth proceedings where I can really see that the family is struggling. And for example, the child is maybe suffering from some addiction, or I had one not too long ago that has some eating disorders. And I can see what's going wrong, but it's another thing to try to fix it. And we try to make sure we're putting in good services, but I look at that and I just want the situation to get better for the child.
I'll get you something. I'll buy you something if I could buy it. It's called a magic wand.
I know.
Don't you wish you had a magic wand?
I do. Sometimes I hope that the things that I say in court, and I'm not one to talk too much, but that maybe if they don't get it now, that it'll resonate in a couple years.
Well, Christylee Peck, that's your camera right now, and you want people to vote for you for Superior Court Judge. Tell our audience why they should vote for Judge Christylee Peck for Superior Court.
Well, I appreciate every single person watching today, and I'm asking for your vote and your support and your help for one of the two vacancies that are open on the Superior Court this year. If you take a look at the candidates, I have the most judicial experience of any of the candidates. I've been on the bench the longest. I already think like a judge. I know how to do my job as a judge. I am impartial. It does not matter to me from what walk of life you come from. I have the most breadth of experience. So I handle every single area of law that the Superior Court looks at, so I'm ready on day one. I already know what the areas of law that they're doing. And if you look at all the candidates, I have the most experience in terms of the areas of law that I cover as a judge than all of the other candidates. As I said, I've been on the bench for almost 9 years now, and I'm blessed to have that position. I take it very seriously. I take the ethics seriously. I love my job. I am very pleased to be on there and serving the community. I'm coming at this with my heart. I want to pour my heart into helping affect victims of justice, but also protecting defendants' rights, protecting everybody's constitutional rights. I want to make sure that everybody has a fair day in court, and I would be honored and blessed to have your vote for one of the 2 seats on the Superior Court.
So, my friends, I hope you never have to be in front of a Superior Court. But if you are, wouldn't you want to have a person like that being your judge? That's the important thing. Don't let anyone tell you how to vote. Forget this nonsense about political parties and vote straight this and vote that. That's nonsense. Vote for the people, my friends, who are qualified. Christylee Peck is qualified. She showed it. She's had tremendous recommendations. Go to her website, electjudgepeck.com, and you'll learn about it. I wish you the best.
Thank
It
you.
was nice meeting you, and I must tell you, your background is very impressive.
I've had a great time traveling the state. I'm having a perfect time.
The best thing that happened to you is coming on the Sam Lesante Show.
I'm sure.
I'm only kidding you. Don't forget, folks, November 5th, get out to vote. See you next time.